sun beat down on the sprawling encampment as Terah gave the command to pack up his family and possessions. They set off from Ur toward Canaan, Terah, his son Abram, grandson Lot, and daughter-in-law Sarai. But halfway there in Haran, they simply settled instead of pressing on. Then the Lord broke 400 years of divine silence, calling to Abram out of the blue to leave behind everything familiar and safe, to go to an unknown land. God Almighty made jaw-dropping promises, multitudes of descendants and divine blessings to impact all families on earth through Abram. Abram obeyed, not knowing these promises seemed ludicrous for an aging, childless man. But he trusted in the living God. As their livestock multiplied, tensions grew between Abram's and Lot's herdsmen. Abram generously diffused conflict by letting Lot pick land first. From the heights, the lush Jordan Valley spread out before Lot's greedy gaze. He seized the fertile spot and journeyed east, leaving the barren area for Abram. But after Lot left, the Lord reopened Abram's eyes. North, south, east, west, he would give it all to Abram's descendants. When enemy kings kidnapped Lot, grizzled Abram swiftly gathered 318 warriors to pursue them 100 miles to Dan, defeating them to rescue Lot. A mysterious priest king then blessed all to Abram that night. Abram heard God's voice again, promising to shield and reward him richly. Then God astoundingly pledged numberless descendants to this old, childless nomad. Trusting God's faithfulness, Abram believed as Abram surveyed the sparkling canopy of stars. God said, "So shall your offspring be." Though the years had sapped his vigor, Abram believed God could overcome human impotence to fulfill this stunning promise. His faith brought righteousness. Sarah paced anxiously in her tent, despairing over her inability to conceive a child for her aging husband Abram after all these years. She had an Egyptian servant, Hagar. Striking upon an idea, Sarah appealed eagerly to Abram. Perhaps a child could come through Hagar. Abram reluctantly agreed and had relations with youthful Hagar. When Hagar swelled pregnant, the power dynamic shifted. Hagar became haughty, provoking her barren mistress. Furious Sarah lashed out until broken Hagar fled weeping into the Negev wilderness, collapsing by a spring under the desert sun. There, the angel of the Lord appeared to the frightened, sobbing girl, commanding her return while also remarkably promising her countless descendants. Hagar found herself stumbling back to submit to Sarah. Just as the angel had promised, Hagar did miraculously bear Abram's son in his old age. As Ishmael grew as Abram's beloved firstborn, God stunningly appeared to elderly Abram, promising to make a mighty nation from his own withered body and establish an everlasting covenant with offspring too numerous to count. Abram fell face down in awe and worship as God changed his name to Abraham. Years passed. 3 strangers showed up at Abraham's encampment, promising ancient Sarah would nurse a son within a year. She laughed. Could a worn-out woman and an old man father a child? Is anything too hard for the Lord? The stranger gently asked. And it came to pass just as promised. Sarah bore Abraham's son in his old age. They delightedly named him laughter-inducing Isaac. Years later, God commanded Abraham to shockingly offer cherished son Isaac upon an altar. Abraham silently arose while the stars still shone and gathered wood for the burnt offering. He took Isaac and 2 young servants, beginning the agonizing 3-day journey to Mount Moriah. Abraham's heart was utterly torn. He had yearned decades for this promised boy, and now God demanded him as a sacrifice. As the mountain loomed before them, Abraham turned to the servants thick with grief and said, "Stay here while we go worship." He took the wood and laid it on Isaac, departing for the long climb. At last they came to the summit. As Abraham built an altar and arranged the wood, his trusting son asked what animal they would sacrifice. Abraham's voice nearly broke, answering, "God himself will provide," though his soul shriveled inside at the impending tragedy. Abraham resolutely tied up his beloved, only son, and laid him atop the altar. He slowly lifted the knife. Just as he brought it down, an angel cried out with thunderous urgency, "Abraham, Abraham, do not harm the boy." Panting, tears streaming down his dusty face, the relieved father found a ram caught in a thicket to use for sacrifices. He had passed the impossible test, proving supreme devotion to God as provider. Abraham renamed that mountain peak the Lord will provide. To this day, people say on the mount of the Lord it will be provided. No matter what precious thing we sacrifice at His bidding, God always gives so much more in return. Abraham's story teaches us the importance of faith, obedience, and trust in God's promises, even when circumstances seem impossible. It serves as a foreshadowing of the sacrificial love of Christ, who became the ultimate atonement for humanity's sins.
Whoa! How amazing was Abraham's wild adventure of trust in God's huge promises. It makes me want to take bold risks for God too. If this epic Bible story got your heart pumping for more, make sure to hit the like button and click subscribe so you can tune in for more captivating narratives that bring the timeless wisdom of the Bible to life. Until next time, may you find inspiration and joy in the stories that shape our faith. Goodbye for now.